Hey guys, tonight you're going to step into the shoes of a detective living in Tokyo, Japan. Don't worry, this journey won't have any bloody or frightening scenes. It's just a glimpse into the everyday life of a detective. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy it. Your support means more than you realize. Now, dim the lights, listen to the rain, and let's dive into tonight's story together. You step into the narrow alley of Shitamaki, the fog clinging to your shoulders like damp cotton. The glow from the street lamps stretches through the mist, the wet pavement reflecting every light. Your phone buzzes, a client's message. A precious necklace vanished from their home last night. You shake your gloves, massage your stiff fingers from the cold, and start imagining where that glittering chain might have gone. Steam rises from a nearby ramen shop, carrying a slightly oily, savory scent that makes you swallow hard. You follow the address, arriving at the doorway where an elderly woman stands, wrapped in a thick down coat. Her eyes show both worry and a kind of resigned warmth. You crouch slightly, speaking in a soft voice. Please tell me, what exactly happened last night? The fog swirls between you like time slowing down. Inside, warm light spreads across the wooden floor, casting subtle, swaying shadows. You crouch by the sofa and catch the faint aroma of tea and old books, the scent of inked pages. The woman points trembling fingers to the counter. I just placed it here. By morning, it was gone. Dust and tiny scratches near the counter catch your eye, silent witnesses to some unseen disturbance. You glance around the room, hearing the wind whistle past iron railings outside, mingled with the distant ring of a bicycle bell and the occasional meow. Every little detail could be a clue, a thread on the carpet, the curtain sliding slightly, scraps of paper in a corner. You bend down, noting every nuance, silently plotting the possible route the thief may have taken. Standing up, you brush dust from your knees, muttering quietly. Looks like another night wandering Tokyo's fog is about to begin. The mist seems to answer, thickening around the street. Yet you know, follow each footprint, every hint of scent, every snippet of conversation, and the secret of the necklace will inevitably unfold. You walk through the narrow alley, the fog making the streetlights look like flowing mercury, their reflections dancing across the wet cobblestones. The air carries a faint sweetness from a nearby convenience store's coffee and the subtle fermented scent of garbage heaps. You tread carefully on the slick surface, each step measured, yet you cannot hide the thrill in your chest. Your first lead waits to be grasped. Your eyes fall on an old grocery window, not far from the crime scene. On the windowsill lie small objects, possibly left behind last night. A shiny button and a slightly curled piece of paper. You crouch, inhaling the mingling scents of cold air, paper, and ink, and pick up the button. It is icy, as if the entire winter night has condensed into this tiny artifact. You rotate it gently, trying to read its story from scratches and smudges. A sudden meow rises from the rooftops. Looking up, you spot a black and white stray cat hopping along the tiles. It watches you intently, as if nudging you toward a forgotten corner. Following the cat's gaze, you notice a few old wooden crates tucked away. Between the seams of one crate, a glimmer of fabric catches your eye. Your heart quickens without permission. You step closer, brushing off the dust on the crates, sending paper scraps fluttering to the damp ground. The fabric is unmistakably from the necklace owner's clothing. You can identify it by texture, color, even the lingering hint of perfume. Touching it, slightly tacky, gives you a hint of absurd joy. The clue is right here before your eyes. Wind whistles again through the alley, bringing the smell of freshly baked bread from the convenience store and the distant rumble of the subway. You crouch, documenting every detail, the scratches on the button, the folds of the paper, the scent of the fabric, the cat's movements. Each piece of information is a tiny spark, slowly illuminating the truth beneath the night fog. You mutter to yourself, Tokyo fog, finally, a little help from you. You push open the ramen shop's wooden door, and a wave of rich broth and soy sauce immediately envelops you. The fog still lingers outside, but the shop's warmth slowly thaws your fingers. The small bell jingles softly, and you feel the old wooden floor slightly vibrate, like the building itself is breathing. Only a handful of patrons remain, quietly eating, the occasional slurp breaking the silence, and you blend into this calm yet life-filled corner. You settle at the counter, eyes on a middle-aged man wearing a worn coat and a gray hat. He's the witness. Steam rises from his bowl, carrying the aroma of chicken broth, green onions, and noodles. You notice him instinctively tightening his scarf, fingers trembling as he lifts noodles. You speak softly. "Did you see anything last night? About the missing necklace?" His hand pauses, eyes flickering. You feel the mix of tension and hesitation, like steam rising from hot soup, clashing with the cold night air. You watch his movements, constantly shifting noodles with his chopsticks, as if organizing his thoughts. You pick a slice of pickled ginger from a small dish, the sweet and sour taste, jolting your senses awake. You nod slightly, silently encouraging him to speak. He swallows, finally saying, I saw someone in a black coat standing at the alley corner, holding a small box. He seemed like he was waiting for something." You listen carefully, noticing the mingling aroma of soy in his breath, as if the air itself tells a story. Outside, the fog is thick like spun sugar, streetlights casting blurry halos. The man's words are a pebble tossed into the lake of your mind, sending ripples across its still surface. You record every detail, the coat's color, his movements, the size and shape of the small box. The Tokyo night, the ramen's warmth, the occasional clink of chopsticks. These are the soundtrack to your clues. You carefully tuck away your notes and sip the broth, warmth spreading from your throat to your stomach. You smile faintly. The case is beginning to take shape, and your everyday life is made richer by these small sensory details. You step out of the ramen shop, and the fog wraps Tokyo's shitamachi like a damp blanket. The streetlights cast hazy halos, and your footsteps make soft thud sounds on the cobblestones. The alley smells of wet soil and damp wood, occasionally mingling with the bitter aroma of coffee from a nearby convenience store. The winter night's chill sharpening your senses, yet calming your mind. You follow the path described by the witness. The narrow alley twists like a dark ribbon, lined with aged brick walls. Corners piled with plastic bags and worn cardboard boxes. Occasionally, a cat's eyes flicker in the shadows. You pause, crouch, and sniff the air, catching a faint metallic scent, like the small box had recently been touched. Your hand rests in your pocket on your notebook and flashlight, the beam sweeping over the damp bricks. A faint dripping sound comes from a distant eave, water hitting the gutter below. You approach a pile of old boxes, gently pushing them aside. They groan under the touch. No one is here, but the ground holds tiny footprints, dirt mixed with scattered rice grains and fallen leaves. You kneel, tracing the prints with your fingers. The cold, damp sensation makes you shiver, but your pulse quickens. Every step could bring you closer to the truth, or lead you deeper into the fog. Deeper in the alley, a faded red lantern sways, casting a weak glow. Your shadow stretches and twists across the walls. You murmur to yourself, "Someone definitely passed through here. But why leave footprints and take nothing?" You replay the witness's words in your mind. Black coat, small box, waiting. Your imagination runs in slow motion: fog, streetlights, damp bricks, cat's eyes, each detail a piece of the puzzle. You pause, inhale deeply, fog curling around your nostrils, mixed with the lingering smell of charcoal from a nearby yakitori stand. You take out your notebook, quickly jotting down every observation: lantern color, footprint direction, metallic traces in the air. Tokyo at night feels quietly lonely, yet it immerses you fully in the case. You smile faintly. Even the smallest alley can hold the largest secrets. You curl up on the windowsill of a worn apartment, the cold seeping through your thin socks into your feet. You pull your trench coat tighter. Outside, the shitamachi fog blankets Tokyo. Streetlights, like dim eyes, quietly watching every alley. Occasionally, the distant rumble of a train or a cat leaping onto an iron fence makes the silence subtly alive. You hold your small binoculars, focusing on the alley where the clues lie. The wind carries the rich aroma of ramen from a nearby shop, mixed with the sweet scent of fresh bread under the convenience store lights. Your fingers tap against the notebook cover, a silent metronome. Every flicker of shadow, every faint rustle of paper, might be part of the puzzle. Time flows slowly. You feel the night pressing coldly against your skin, fog curling softly around each breath. The witness's words replay in your mind: the black coat, the missing box. You ponder silently. Who moves in the dark? And why leave such obvious traces? You mutter, voice swallowed by fog, "Someone has to care, I'm watching here." A few bicycles glide down the wet streets, chains clicking faintly. At the alley's edge, a small dog sits, tilting its head as if nudging you to notice something. You dim your flashlight and jot the scene down. Animals are often more truthful than people, their actions sometimes revealing unexpected evidence. Late into the night, you lean against the cold window frame, your notebook filled with observations and conjectures. Tokyo's darkness feels like a soft blanket enveloping every sound and scent. You sigh softly, pulling your hat lower. The chill is real, yet there is comfort in the solitude. In this quiet stakeout, you converse with the city fog, lights, footsteps. Even your own breath sync with the rhythm of the case. Tonight, your watch has only just begun. You step out of the narrow apartment building, your feet pressing against wet stone slabs. Fog curling around your ankles like a soft veil. Streetlights cast hazy halos in the moist air, occasionally lighting up faded posters and fragments of neon. You walk slowly down the alley, fingers occasionally flicking your small notebook, reviewing every detail from last night. Steam rises from the entrance of a ramen shop, carrying the rich scent of soy sauce and chicken broth. You push the door open gently, only the overnight staff remain, quietly wiping bowls. You order a bowl of shio ramen. The broth sends tiny plumes of steam upward. You take a sip, warmth sliding down your throat, and murmur, this soup feels like a little sun in winter. After finishing, you glance up and notice a convenience store camera slightly swaying. Your mind clicks. The black coat from last night might have passed here. You buy a can of coffee, sipping as you weave through alleys, inspecting every corner, toppled boxes, scattered cigarette butts, damp patches along the walls. Clues glimmer like distant stars, scattered yet shining. Patience is required to connect them into a path. On the street, occasional taxis roar by, blending with the low echo of temple bells in the distance. You crouch to examine a damp patch, discovering a hurried shoe print from last night. Mud glinting in the tread. You touch it lightly with your finger, committing it to memory. Each movement, every scent, may lead you closer to the truth. The Tokyo night wind brushes past. You tuck your notebook away, the coffee in your pocket cooling slowly. The fog acts as a gentle curtain, rendering the city both soft and mysterious. You know the first lead has appeared, and all you need is to follow its rhythm. Nightfall, streetlights, faint sounds, and your quiet footsteps in the alley all become part of the pursuit. You walk down the fog-laden alley, wet stone, slabs slippery. Beneath your feet, mud splashing onto your shoes. Fallen branches and leaves from yesterday's rain litter the path, the air a mix of damp paper and the faint aroma of grilled skewers from a distant convenience store. Squinting, you scan for traces left by the black coat from last night. Behind a pile of discarded boxes, you spot a crumpled piece of paper, damp but still legible. Crouching, you pick it up gently. Your fingers brush the ink, slightly smudged from moisture. The handwriting is messy, but you make out a few keywords. Sanjo Bridges and midnight. A subtle thrill runs through you. Someone may have deliberately left a clue, or perhaps it was left inadvertently in a hasty escape. You continue down the alley, each step causing a faint squelch as your shoes press into wet mud. Occasionally, wind whistles through gaps in the metal doors, carrying a scent of paint and old wood that makes you shiver. Looking up, you see droplets falling from the eaves, catching the dim street light and glinting silver. Suddenly, a few coffee grounds scattered on the ground catch your eye, tracing the wet path from last night. Crouching to examine them, you picture the convenience store clerk leaving with a cup of coffee. You murmur softly, maybe he always takes coffee on the go, forgot it here in his rush. You file these tiny details away, assembling a mental map of the city's hidden motions. At the end of the alley, a red lantern sways gently, casting your shadow along the walls. You pause, listening to the distant roar of the train mingled with the simmering broth from a nearby ramen shop. Your breath slows, each tiny clue acting as a lighthouse guiding your path. Tokyo's night is cold, yet with a lead in hand, your chest feels warm, as though a small fire burns within. You walk along the damp streets of Tokyo's Shitamaki, the fog wrapping around the streetlights. Like thin silk, the orange glow stretching long reflections across the wet pavement. Clutching the paper you found last night, your heartbeat quickens with each step. The midnight wind carries the chill from the Edo River, sliding down your collar and nipping at your spine, making you hunch slightly. Ahead, a small coffee shop glows faintly with red neon. Through the fog, you make out a figure, the silhouette of a black coat, shifting in the dim light. You whisper to yourself, "It's him." Your footsteps are silent, each slab of stone seeming to swallow the sound, leaving only your breathing and heartbeat. You gently push the door open, a bell chimes softly, and the aroma of coffee mixed with toasted bread greets you. The man in the coat sits in the corner, holding a warm cup of coffee, mist curling from his exhaled breath. Coins are scattered across the table, and his watch strap is slightly worn on his left wrist. You note these little details, mentally sketching the edges of the puzzle. He looks up, a flicker of surprise crossing his eyes before calm returns. You sit down, order a hot cocoa, and listen to the distant hum of the train and the occasional cry of a nightbird. The dampness of the street seeps in through the door cracks, making the interior warmth feel precious. You begin softly, "About the paper from last night." Your voice low, wrapped in the night's stillness. He nods slightly, silent, fingers tapping nervously against the cup. You know this midnight meeting is crucial. The threads of clues will slowly lead to the truth. Tokyo's night is deep blue velvet, enveloping both of you, and your little detective flame quietly burns in response. You step out of the coffee shop, the Tokyo fog curling around your ankles, like soft cotton. Streetlights cast long shadows on the wet pavement, and the distant hum of the trains reminds you that the city never truly sleeps. The paper from last night is still slightly damp in your pocket. Your fingertips feel the chill of the ink. The air carries a mixture of roasted coffee, damp wooden boards, and the faint earthy smell from the drains. You walk along the alley, noticing the puddles reflecting the light, like a shattered golden carpet laid out by the city. You think of the man in the coffee shop, the rhythm of his fingers tapping the cup still echoing in your mind. A hint, an unfinished melody. You turn into a narrow alley with almost no streetlights, the wind whistling through the gaps between rooftops. Every step is deliberate, checking your surroundings. At the end, a 24-hour convenience store glows faintly, its orange light spilling onto the wet pavement. The time on the paper suggests that maybe a clue is here. Inside, the smell of instant bento, the steam from the coffee machine, and the plastic chill from the freezer mixes into a mundane symphony. You pretend to browse the shelves, but keep your eyes on the counter. The clerk seems a bit uneasy, as if aware of your intentions. You lean closer, whisper, "Did anyone come last night wearing a black coat?" The clerk pauses, hands hovering over the register, then shakes their head gently. You sigh softly, muttering under your breath. Of course, the clue is always in the most ordinary place. You pick up a can of hot coffee, warming your fingers on it, letting the heat fend off the chill for a moment. The Tokyo night winds snake through the alley, and you follow silent, observant, like a ghost trailing behind scattered scents, shifting lights, and unknown footsteps. You walk slowly along the canal, the thin fog curling across the water. Streetlight reflections trembling with each gentle ripple. The old wooden docks creak under your feet, each step a quiet reminder. There are stories here, maybe danger too. You smell the mixture of water vapor and old fish, mingled with the faint aroma of scallions from a ramen shop in the distance, making you swallow reflexively. You crouch in a shadow, noticing a black cat silently observing from the dock, its tail flicking gently. It feels like a silent assistant or a subtle warning. You pull out your notebook, quickly jotting down details from the convenience store encounter. The scratch of your pen blends with the subtle slap of water against the dock, forming a rhythm of its own. Across the canal, a small boat sits still, warm yellow light spilling from its cabin. You imagine the man in the black coat passing through here last night. The sound of wet shoes on wood and your own breathing seem vivid and real. You step carefully on the stone path, misbrushing your face, cold and damp. The wind carries the rustle of plastic bags on the street, distant television noise, and the occasional bicycle bell, piercing the fog. You move closer to a row of old stalls. The vendor counts coins quietly, as if the world slowed down, leaving only you chasing an invisible thread. Leaning against a pillar, you focus on the shimmering reflections on the water, calculating possible routes in your mind. Tokyo's Shitamachi at night is like this. Familiar yet strange, calm yet full of unpredictable movement. You know each step could bring the clue closer, or let the night swallow everything. You sip hot tea, the steam rising and mingling with the fog. Adjust your breath, and follow the unfinished thread of the story into the night. You step into a narrow alley, fog curling like cotton around the old bricks at the corners. The streetlights are sparse, their light refracted by the mist into blurry yellow halos. Plastic bags, scraps of paper, and tiny cat paw prints are scattered along the ground. Your footsteps echo loudly in the empty alley, each one a reminder. There might be a clue here, or just silence. You notice graffiti on the walls, half swallowed by the darkness. Only a few streaks of red paint flickering in your vision. The air smells damp, as if yesterday's rain hasn't fully dried. You crouch, feeling the cold, slightly slick stone under your fingers. You imagine the man in black shoes hurrying through here last night. Droplets splashing to a rhythm only your mind can hear. Deeper in the alley, a flickering neon sign outlines a distant convenience store. You edge closer, scanning every door and window with the corner of your eye. A faint cough reaches you. You pause your breathing, listening to the hiss of wind through drainage pipes. You jot down keywords, time, position, possible exits, each a potential thread in the case. You push open a half-closed wooden door, the hinge creaks breaking the alley's quiet. Inside is a tiny second-hand bookstore, the air smelling of paper, mildew, and faint coffee. You step lightly, the echo of the alley still in your ears, analyzing the movements and motives of those involved. Tokyo at night always swings between chill and warmth, and you walk in the fog as if chasing an invisible thread. You pace between shelves, fingers brushing yellowed pages, feeling their fragility and age. Every book is a small world, hiding secrets unrelated to the case, or perhaps the key to unraveling it. You pick up a notebook that fell to the floor, its pages filled with chaotic handwriting. Your heartbeat quickens. This clue might be more direct than you imagined. You step out of the alley, greeted by the cool, damp air of Tokyo's early morning. The scent of sea breeze mingles with steamed dumplings, and the earthy aroma of freshly swept streets. Street vendors are just setting up. The clang of iron pots and the slam of refrigerator doors create a subtle rhythm. You walk past row after row of small shops, your eyes scanning the crowd for any trace of the man in black from last night's alley. You pause at a stall selling fresh vegetables, picking up a few carrots. Your fingers touch the icy roots, and you can't help but chuckle to yourself. Cold, but I need to keep moving. The vendor greets you cheerfully. You nod, while your mind runs through potential witnesses. Every passerby might carry a clue, even a fleeting glance or a dropped hat. Fog curls softly through the market, wrapping the lights of each stall in a hazy cocoon. In the corner, by the convenience store, you spot a damp footprint remarkably similar to the one from the alley. Your chest tightens as you crouch, studying every detail like time has left a coded message. You reach into your pocket, find your notebook, and quickly jot down the location, the time, and possible routes of the suspect. You pass a ramen shop, the smell of soy and frying, oil drifting into your nose, warming you slightly. With a small bamboo stick, you carefully lift a fallen plastic bag near a stall, examining it as if it were evidence at a crime scene. Every movement is slow, deliberate, methodical, yet laced with keen observation. A cat leaps onto a nearby stall, agile and alert, reminding you that even Tokyo's animals are quietly watching. Leaving the market, the fog thins, but your mind sharpens. Clues flicker like streetlights in the morning. Mist, faint but guiding. You know the case is far from over, and today's market is only the start of a new round of tracking. Every small gesture, every ordinary scene could conceal a critical answer. You step into a seldom used alley, the fog draping itself over the cobblestones like a thin veil. The streetlights sway, casting weak halos that tint the damp walls a deep gray. You notice stacks of cardboard and old newspapers in the corners. Every discarded object might conceal a clue from last night. The air smells musty, mingling with the onion oil scent drifting from a nearby diner. Your footsteps echo sharply, each step like you are carefully reading the secrets left behind. You crouch to inspect a wet paper bag, discovering a few grains of grit inside. They match the footprint you suspect the man in black left yesterday. Your fingers touch the cold, damp remnants, sending a shiver down your spine. A reminder that Tokyo's winter does not forgive. Deeper in the alley, a stray cat stares at you with green eyes, tail twitching lightly. It disappears suddenly into the mist, making your chest tighten. A silent reminder that this place holds more than gray walls and trash. Stories are quietly unfolding. You tread along the brick gaps, noting every uneven stone, every water streak. These tiny signs are the city's language, and you must listen closely. Leaning against a wall, you take out your notebook and quickly record the details. The paper curls slightly from moisture, but you don't mind. Each line is a piece of the puzzle. Perhaps today you can only collect clues, the full answer waiting until nightfall. You exhale, and the white fog spills from your mouth, as if the city itself is breathing. Bells ring in the distance, reminding you people move about, but few stop in this forgotten alley. You continue walking, calculating possible routes, potential witnesses, and the mysterious path of the man in black from last night. Every shadow beneath a streetlight could conceal secrets. Tokyo is cold, the alley is long, but your mind has already lit this gray path. You push open the wooden door of the ramen shop, and the bell chimes sharply. Warmth hits you immediately, mingled with a rich aroma of soy sauce, garlic, and simmering noodles. The chill from the fog outside still clings to your damp coat, but the shop's heat wraps around you like an embrace, loosening the tension in your muscles after the alley search. You pick a corner seat, noticing a small wooden sign on the table. Today's special, chicken broth ramen. You order a bowl, watching the noodles dance in the steaming broth. Tiny wisps of steam swirling like little clouds around you. You take your first bite, and the warmth of the soup hits your chest. You mutter softly, "This is life, saving warmth." Your gaze drifts across the shop, observing every patron. An elderly man by the window stirs his soup quietly, lost in thought. The counter attendant skillfully flips noodles into bowls, each bounce precise and rhythmic. Suddenly, you notice a stranger in the far corner, dressed in a black trench coat, eyes flickering with unease. His hand moves quickly across a notebook, scribbling notes. Your instincts prick. He might be connected to last night's case. You edge closer subtly, maintaining distance while organizing the clues in your mind. The footprints and wet paper bag from the alley, the disappearing stray cat. All threads weaving towards him. Perhaps a word or a gesture from this stranger could reveal the outline of the mystery you've been chasing. You lift your chopsticks for another bite, the warmth of the broth flowing down your throat, letting you relax momentarily without losing focus. The soft murmurs of conversation, the clinking of bowls, even the muffled wind from the fog outside, all feel like background music, orchestrating your hunt for truth. This seemingly ordinary ramen shop, you realize, could be a crucial node in the case. A tiny stage where secrets simmer in warmth. You return to your small apartment, the door closing behind you with a low, satisfying thunk that echoes through the fog-drenched night. Outside, the streetlights shimmer faintly, like tired eyes watching over the deserted lanes of Shitamaki. Inside, your desk lamp casts a pale circle of light, making the papers before you glow with an almost spectral white. You pour yourself a glass of warm water, the faint aroma of tea leaves and damp wood blending softly in the air. You open your notebook, your quiet confidant, and spread out the notes from last night, the man in the ramen shop, the soaked paper bag, the fragments that refuse to settle. Your pen glides over the page, sketching out impressions, the weight of the fog, the echo of a cat's cry in the alley, the sheen of wet footprints beneath a flickering lamp. Each detail feels fragile yet deliberate, threads waiting to be woven into something that makes sense. The wind presses against the window pane, making the curtains whisper a gentle whoosh. You scroll through the photos from last night. The man's profile caught mid-turn, the faint curve of a knowing smile. You draw arrows, circle faces, jot down stray thoughts. Your quiet rebellion against the blur of uncertainty that lingers outside. The clock ticks on, steady and indifferent, each second dissolving into the hush of the fog. You lean back in your chair, sip your drink, eyes lingering on the chaos of ink and paper. There's no audience, no spotlight, only you, your notes, and the slow rhythm of the night. Solitude sharpens your thoughts. The silence feels almost companionable. Now and then, you touch the rim of your coffee cup, and your mind drifts back to the ramen shop. The broth's warmth, the rising steam, the stranger's gaze that lingered just a beat too long. The truth, you think, hides in moments like these, quiet, unremarkable, almost ordinary. Every gust of wind, every solitary step in the alley could be whispering something. You murmur to yourself. Tokyo, you always keep your secrets close at night. Your pen resumes its motion, filling the notebook with careful observations and quiet guesses. Outside, the fog thickens, the street lights flicker, and somewhere a bicycle bell rings faintly, the city's own lullaby. The mystery remains unsolved, but you know this. Sometimes the closest you get to the truth is in the stillness between questions. You push open your apartment door, stepping into the damp night. The street stretches before you like a ribbon wrapped in fog. Puddles reflect the streetlights, rippling slightly under your careful steps. You tighten your coat, the cold and wetness biting at your cheeks, each step producing a soft thud against the asphalt. The narrow alleyway twists ahead, neon lights diffused by mist, their colors bleeding like an abstract watercolor. You remember the stranger's steps from last night, captured in the photos. A paper bag left behind, its wet stain illuminated by the flickering street lamp. You crouch, your fingers brushing the icy water, a reminder that the city always keeps humans aware of their smallness at night. No voices echo here, only the distant rumble of trains and the occasional cat's meow. You notice muddy footprints mixed with fallen leaves, patterns on the ground telling last night's story. Crouching, you snap photos, capturing every detail, reflections in the puddles. The crumpled paper bag in the corner, even the faint scent of mildew. You glance up for a moment. A shadow seems to appear in the mist, only to vanish the next instant. You mutter softly. Some shadows only wander at night. Step by careful step, you move through the alley, careful not to disturb its fragile quiet. The wind rustles the rain-curled posters on the walls, creating a soft flap sound. You pick up the paper bag, inhaling the faint aroma of damp bread and leftover soy sauce. Fragments of ordinary life strangely mingling with the case's shadow. Thoughts drift to the cafe owner's idle chatter, the ramen shop's warm steam and laughter at the corner. A reminder that even in foggy Tokyo nights, the city pulses gently. At the alley's end, a rusty iron door hangs slightly ajar, as if inviting you inside. Your hand pauses on the cold metal handle, feeling the unfamiliar yet tangible temperature. You know tonight's pursuit won't be in vain. Every drop of water, every fallen leaf, is Tokyo whispering its story just for you. You push open the ramen shop's shuji door, the little bell above ringing a crisp ding. Dong. The fog outside lingers in the street, damp and cold. But inside, warm steam greets you, heavy with the smell of soy, miso, and simmering meat. You take a slow breath, letting the aroma fill your lungs. A few regulars glance up from the counter, their eyes a mix of habitual curiosity and mild caution. You order a simple shoyu ramen, stirring the noodles in the hot broth as steam condenses into tiny droplets on your face. Across the wooden table, newspapers lie scattered, and a half-finished cup of tea sends faint ripples of warmth into the room. Something catches your eye, a small slip of paper at the corner, scribbled with numbers and symbols, seemingly left in haste. You pick it up, feeling its slight dampness and greasy texture, mixing with the heat and mist, like it was meant for you to find. Behind the counter, the chef expertly pulls noodles, peels soft boiled eggs, and taps the ladle against the iron pot in rhythmic cadence. You watch each movement, noting the steam's direction and the distribution of seasoning, searching for traces linked to last night's alley. Even the wet apron hanging on the wall hooks your attention. Its texture and stains remind you of the soggy paper bag you found outside. When your ramen arrives, you lift the noodles with chopsticks. The hot broth slides down your throat, prompting a quiet mutter. This is Tokyo's comfort. You taste while mentally arranging the clues. The paper slip, the apron, the wet paper bag, the damp alley, each a fragment of the puzzle. You hold the paper to the light. The steam blurs some ink, yet numbers and symbols remain legible enough to hint at the next step. Outside, the fog rolls along the street, shadows swaying under the streetlights. The city whispers in subtle tones, reminding you to notice every detail. Smell, sound, moisture, movement. All keys to unraveling the mystery. You take mental notes as your ramen cools, but your mind continues wandering through the misty Tokyo night. You step into the convenience store late at night. A little bell above jingles crisply, cutting through the fog outside. Cold wind slips through the door, lifting the hem of your coat and carrying the damp city air inside. Rows of neatly stacked bento boxes, canned coffee, and snacks shimmer under the neon lights. And you inhale a mixture of plastic packaging, faint coffee aroma, and the chill. You move past the hot food section, noticing a small slip of paper pinned to the notice board by the register. It bears a name and a time, left as if intentionally for someone to find. You crouch slightly, squinting at the hurried, uneven handwriting. Outside, the alley is silent, and the neon lights flicker unpredictably. You know this note connects somehow to the paper, slipped from the ramen shop. The microwave hums in the corner, warming bento boxes that emit a faint soy scent. You pick up a hot milk, feeling its warmth through the cup, watching tiny droplets of condensation form between your fingers. Clutching the note, you replay the night's trail of shadows, wet paper bags, and ramen shop clues. Each one a small fragment of the Tokyo night puzzle. The clerk organizes the shelves, and you notice faint grease stains and scratches on her hands, echoing the ink on the paper slip and the stains on the ramen shop apron. You mutter softly. The city hides clues in the most ordinary places. You pace the store, each step echoing on the tile, as if reminding you that the next hint might be right in front of you, waiting to be seen. Outside, the wet street reflects neon lights like scattered fragments. The fog carries the night's chill. But there is a peculiar warmth in your solitude. You wander through Tokyo at night, aware that each ordinary store, each passerby, might hold a key to unraveling the mystery. You slip the note into your pocket, push the door open, and feel the cold wind roll over you again. The puzzle isn't solved yet. The hunt continues. You walk down the wet alley, neon lights reflecting in puddles like scattered shards on the gray stones. The fog is thick, softening the glow of street lamps, and you can barely hear distant cars. Only the faint slick echo of your shoes on the pavement reaches your ears. Your hand tightens around the note from the convenience store. Your pulse quickens slightly. Tonight, this lead might take you closer to the truth. Suddenly, you catch the soft sound of footsteps, like rain drumming on a corrugated roof. You freeze, holding your breath. At the alley's end, a shadowy figure appears. Clad in a gray coat, head bowed as if trying to go unnoticed. As you approach, the faint smell of tobacco and damp clothing reaches you. You think to yourself, this guy, either an innocent passerby, or exactly who I'm looking for. He stops by a trash bin and mutters something in Japanese, almost inaudible. But his tone carries a warning or a hint. You adjust your breathing, stepping lightly while keeping your eyes on his movements. Your fingers brush the cool metal of the pen in your pocket notebook, ready to record every detail. The fog drapes him in a soft veil, and you see him pull a small slip of paper from his pocket, quickly sticking it to a metal gate before vanishing deeper into the alley. You step forward, picking up the paper, an address and a time, the ink still damp with a faint scent of kerosene. Tokyo's night is silent yet full of whispers and secrets. Every detail seems to hint that the case is slowly unraveling. You glance down at the wet pavement, moving carefully, so your reflection in the puddles ripples subtly. The fog swirls around, the alley's quiet laying out a trail for you to follow. You tuck the note safely into your pocket and continue down the street, each step carrying suspense and expectation. You know this night-long pursuit has only just begun. You push open the door to the small ramen shop, a bell chiming as you step inside. Immediately enveloped by steam and the rich scent of broth, the fog still clings to the streets outside. But here it's warm and humid, with the aroma of soy sauce, simmering meat, and a hint of sweet scallions. You settle into a corner at the bar, able to watch the flames in the kitchen dance as the chef skillfully flips noodles, the broth bubbling like a miniature smoke show. Clutching the note in your hand, your eyes scan every customer. Beneath the old pendant lights, a few people converse quietly, chopsticks clinking against bowls, forming a gentle rhythm. You know the lead might be here, a person connected to the note, or at least someone who had been here recently. Your ramen arrives, steam curling upward, and as you lift your chopsticks, the aroma tingles on your tongue. You lick a drop of broth off your fingers and mutter under your breath. This is comforting. Chopsticks in one hand, the note in the other. You notice the elderly bar staff glancing your way, assessing you, probably wondering if you're just a regular customer. You glance around and notice a bulletin board cluttered with old newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, job postings, messy but full of life. One damp slip of paper catches your eye, seemingly linked to your lead. You reach for it, the cold, wet paper chills your fingers, but you barely notice. The cold reminds you the case is far from over. Outside, the fog continues to creep along the streets, streetlights creating blurred halos on wet glass. You stir your noodles, the low hum of city life drifting in. The distant rumble of the subway, the occasional bicycle bell, forming a curious contrast with the cozy chaos inside the ramen shop. You take a deep breath, organizing your thoughts. The next step is clear: find the person behind the note, or at least trace a thread connecting them to this place. You crouch in the shadow of a street corner, the fog wrapping around the low buildings like a tide. Your binoculars fog slightly from your breath, forming a fleeting white mist in the cold air. The streets are nearly empty, only the occasional bicycle bell or the distant rumble of the subway reminds you that the city never truly sleeps. Through the binoculars, you focus on the old apartment building. The name on the note might appear here tonight. The coffee at your feet is still steaming, and you mutter under your breath, "Gotta hold on, don't freeze before him." Your fingers are stiff from the cold, but you hardly notice, eyes locked on the building entrance. Under the streetlight, a dark figure slowly moves. The fog drapes around the lamp like silk, blurring vision and heightening the drama. You notice him pausing at a utility pole, pulling out his phone, then suddenly turning toward an alley. Your pulse quickens. This could be the person you're after. You follow silently, your steps as light as wind over water. The alley echoes with the soft clatter of trash cans, interspersed with the distant meow of a cat, composing a nocturnal soundtrack for your stakeout. Neon reflections shimmer on the wet pavement through the fog, creating a fractured path of light as you weave through it like a hidden shadow. Suddenly, the figure stops, glancing in your direction. You crouch lower, holding your breath, silently hoping the fog keeps you hidden. After a few tense seconds, he lowers his head and continues walking. You exhale quietly, reminding yourself that tonight's wait is just the beginning. The real answers still lie ahead, waiting for you to uncover them. You push open the heavy wooden door of the old bookstore, the hinge groaning softly, as if reminding everyone entering that this place has a century of stories. The fog still curls along the streets outside, but inside, the air is thick with the scent of aged paper and faint mildew. Sunlight filters through the dusty glass, casting dappled patterns on the wooden floor. You walk slowly between the shelves, fingers brushing the spines, almost as if touching the past. Each row of books carries a unique aroma, a mix of ink and old paper, almost letting you sense the breath of readers long gone. A cat murmurs from a corner, as if hinting that something awaits your discovery today. You check your notes. Someone mentioned that the shopkeeper might have seen the mysterious figure from last night. You look up, offering a polite smile. Has anyone been looking for these kinds of books recently? The shopkeeper squints, pondering, weighing whether you are friend or foe. You meet his gaze, like speaking to a riddle. He nods subtly, guiding you to a shelf of ancient journals, pointing at one. Simone's been through this not long ago. You crouch, flipping the pages. The soft scrape of paper feels unusually loud in the quiet. In the corner of a page, faint ink marks appear casual, yet deliberate, perhaps hiding a clue. You mutter under your breath. Every little detail could lead back to that night. The ticking of the shop clock, the distant bike bells on the street, and the cat's gentle rub against the floor blend into an eerie rhythm. Tokyo feels so still in this moment, yet currents of the unknown swirl beneath. Fingers tracing the pages, you know this is just a single piece of the puzzle. The true answers are still out there in the fog and shadows of the city at night. You crouch in a narrow alley of Shitamaki, rain falling steadily, spattering on your coat with a soft patter. The streetlights refract through the fog, halos like blurred watercolors. Your shadow wavering on the slick pavement. Neon from a nearby convenience store flickers red and blue, hinting that tonight might bring an unusual discovery. You hold your umbrella, eyes fixed on the windows of a small apartment, breathing evenly. Names from your notebook float through your mind. Last night's shadow, the faint ink marks in the bookstore, the disappearing bicycle wheels at the street corner. Each detail falls like a raindrop, slowly merging into a pattern. Rain hits the cover of your notebook with a gentle crackle. You jot down every observation. A shadow appears at the windowsill above, drawing the curtain aside, as if peeking at the street below. Crouched in the rain, your gloves soaked, hands stiff from the cold. You resist shivering, focused on every motion, every gesture that could reveal a clue. Occasionally, night wanderers pass by, their footsteps echoing in the alley. You control your breathing, unwilling to be noticed. The damp city air carries the murmur of drain water, the aroma of a distant ramen shop, faint traces of tobacco. Tokyo at night is cold and wet, yet vividly alive. Every detail could conceal something crucial. You quietly note the figure above, picking up a letter, fingers lingering over the seal, hesitating. Rain, neon, footsteps. All the rhythms record themselves in your mind. Tonight you must endure, observe, and wait, like an unassuming cat moving through the city, silently absorbing every subtle movement. This night you breathe with Tokyo, each raindrop a tiny hint, nudging you closer to the truth. You step into a narrow alley, slick with rain, as if all of Tokyo holds its breath beneath your feet. Walls are plastered with yellowing posters, letters blurred and fading. The old neon flickers uncertainly, ready to die out at any moment. The air smells of mildew, damp cardboard, and faint traces of smoke from the convenience store that just closed. Your footsteps echo softly between the walls, collar pulled tight, hat brim low, eyes scanning the shadows for anything out of place. The shadow you glimpsed from the apartment window last night unsettled you. You know this alley may hold traces he left behind. You crouch, brushing your fingers over muddy footprints and puddles, discovering a small copper coin glinting wetly in the dim light. You slip it into a plastic bag next to your notebook, mentally noting that this coin might be a key to the next clue. At the alley's end, a rusted iron door hangs ajar. You hear the soft drip of water from inside, almost whispering a secret. Gently, you push the door open, the hinges creaking like a warning not to make a sound. Inside, the narrow, shadowed space holds only wooden crates and scattered papers. Crouching, you flip through the sheets, finding cryptic symbols and incomplete addresses. Rain drips through holes in the roof. You shield your notes with one hand, cold seeping in. But focus intensifies on every letter, every mark. The alley, the old door, the wet papers, the coin, all seemingly insignificant, yet forming pieces of the puzzle. You breathe evenly, absorbing each element, knowing the path to unravel the mystery is slowly emerging. Tokyo whispers around you, and you, the city's most attentive ear and eye, capture every secret hidden in the rainy night. You walk along the slick streets back to the ramen shop, tucked beside the alley, the fog softening the streetlights into hazy halos. The warm glow inside greets you as you push open the door, the steam and strong soy aroma immediately wrapping around you. The owner flicks long noodles into a boiling broth, the sound of water and oil splashing together like a low midnight murmur. You settle into a seat by the window. The table feels slightly cold under your fingers. When the ramen arrives, the hot steam brushes your cheeks, bringing a gentle flush. You twirl the golden noodles with your chopsticks, inhaling the rich pork bone, scent mingled with soy and garlic. You can't help muttering, in weather like this, ramen like this isn't too bad. Your thoughts drift back to the alley and the copper coin. On the table, small slips of paper and your notebook glint. Under the warm light, as you jot down the layout of the alley and the half-open iron door. Soft music hums in the background, low conversations from neighboring tables, the clink of spoons on bowls. A reminder that despite Tokyo's cold indifference, life and warmth still persist. The owner glances at you, smiling, placing a small bowl in front of you. Still working at midnight, detective. You nod quietly, offering no explanation, simply savoring the hot broth. Outside, the fog thickens. You know tonight's investigation will continue. But for this fleeting moment, the warmth on your tongue brings a rare comfort. You finish the last sip, push the empty bowl aside, and exhale. Tokyo's night stretches on endlessly, but you hoist your coat and step into the slick streets, your mind already plotting the next step. The ramen shop lights fade behind you, yet the alley, the copper coin, and the shadowy figure in the fog linger vividly in your thoughts. You walk along the damp park path, the night thick as ink, fog drifting under the streetlights like soft cotton. Each step makes ripples on puddles, the faint splash echoing in the quiet. On a distant bench, a shadow sways slightly, half hidden by mist, as if waiting for you. You move closer, hand gripping your notebook and flashlight in your coat pocket, ready to capture every detail. The wind rustles through the treetops, carrying the damp scent of grass and decaying leaves. Each breath reminds you of the cold, wet Tokyo night. The shadow slowly lifts its head, and you catch a pair of eyes glinting in the gloom. A shiver runs down your spine. You stop, whispering, "Did you see anything in the alley last night?" Your voice is swallowed by fog, leaving only a faint echo. The shadow doesn't answer, drifting silently deeper into the mist. You follow, stepping carefully, the soles of your shoes squelching softly against the wet ground. The park's covered walkways cast broken shadows, as if countless figures are playing hide and seek with you. You notice scattered papers on the ground, strange symbols penciled across them, perhaps clues or perhaps tricks. Crouching down, you touch one. The damp paper feels cold, a whisper of mystery seeping through your fingertips. You inhale deeply, realizing this shadow might tie into the copper coin case. Every detail could conceal a lead, every breath a silent bargain with the night. The fog thickens as you trace the path, quietly planning your next move. Despite the stillness, faint breaths, distant car engines, and the occasional rustle of leaves remind you that Tokyo's secrets are far denser than they appear. Standing by the bench, you watch the shadow dissolve into mist, fingers gripping your notebook, sensing a strange yet thrilling solitude. Tokyo's night is a silent canvas, waiting for you to sketch, pursue, and decode each story hidden in its shadows. You walk down the slick alley, the streetlights blurred and lonely through the thick fog. The convenience store's neon glows bloom softly in pinks and blues, turning the alley into a watercolor haze. A stray cat by a trash bin lifts its head, tail flicking lightly, seemingly judging your intentions. You notice tiny copper coins scattered across the wet mud. Your notebook feels cool in your hand as you crouch, letting your fingertips brush each coin, sensing the cold, heavy weight left by the rain. You mutter under your breath, "These little things might matter more than I think." The air carries the faint scent of brewed coffee from the store, mingling with plastic and damp cardboard. You tread carefully along the alley, each step a quiet plop on the wet ground. Graffiti on the walls looks abstract in the mist, like silent hints. You glance up at a half-open window, the sill covered in dust and rain streaks. You feel it might conceal a clue left by an eyewitness. A breeze stirs, and you hear the distant click of the convenience store fridge door. Pressing against the wall, you inhale slowly, letting the fog fill your lungs, sensing the city's nighttime breath. Your flashlight beam cuts across the wall, revealing a folded note dampened by mud. Unfolding it, the scrawled writing seems to whisper the story of last night. You crouch there in the alley, notebook ready, knowing every detail could be a key to the mystery. Occasionally, a gust of wind rustles papers and plastic, and you smile at the absurd little quirks of urban solitude. The answer to the case lies in these small details, and you, step by careful step, are moving closer to it. You push open the old wooden door, and the faint scent of paper and dust rushes to greet you. The fog outside still clings stubbornly to the street corner, curling through the doorway as you step inside, bringing with you the damp breath of Tokyo's night. Under the muted glow of a single lamp, shelves rise like silent sentinels, packed with books whose spines have long forgotten the touch of daylight. A soft breeze sneaks in from somewhere, stirring the pages just enough to sound like whispers, secrets meant only for you. Your footsteps creak softly against the wooden floorboards as you wander deeper between the shelves. The soaked note you found in the alley last night still lingers in your mind. The smudged ink, the strange scent of old paper. Something about this place hums with the same quiet tension. You reach out, running your fingertips along the rough, cracked leather of an ancient notebook, feeling as though you could trace the pulse of another life that once existed here, perhaps even one tied to your case. From behind a pile of worn novels, a cat emerges, tail flicking lazily. Its eyes catch the dim light like twin coins. You watch as it climbs up the shelf, brushing dust into the air. A faint smile tugs at your lips. You flip open an old magazine on a nearby table. Its edges warped from moisture, the ink faintly blurred, and there it is, the same looping handwriting from last night's note. Your pulse quickens, the fog inside your head begins to thin. The air smells of paper, cedar, and the faint sting of mildew. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing it in. It smells like memory. Outside, the neon glow of a convenience store sign filters through the window, mingling with the yellow lamplight and casting the room in a dreamlike haze. You crouch down, notebook open, and jot down every detail. Every scent, every sound, every possibility. The soft scratch of your pen mingles with the sigh of turning pages, as if the city itself were writing beside you. When you finally step outside, the door groans in farewell. The fog hasn't lifted. It never really does here. You glance back once. The books behind the window stand still, like witnesses who refuse to speak. The street glistens under the dim lamps as you walk, each footstep echoing faintly against the wet pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a car hums by, and in that low vibration, you feel it again, that quiet, unspoken rhythm of Tokyo, drawing you forward into the mystery. You shuffle through the misty streets of Shitamachi, your coat collar pulled tight against the damp chill. Tonight, the city feels quieter than usual, as if even the neon signs are holding their breath. You clutch the folded piece of paper you found tucked behind a crate at the back alley. A grocery receipt with a note scribbled in uneven handwriting. Could this be the last lead you've been searching for? Passing by a steaming ramen stall, the scent of pork broth and soy mingles with the wet asphalt and distant smoke of a burnt-out cigarette. You pause, listening to the faint hiss of a bicycle tire and the soft murmur of a passerby, feeling the city's heartbeat in the fog. Each step on the slick cobblestone echoes in your mind, replaying the minor details of the case. The glint of a lighter, the placement of a forgotten scarf, the peculiar tilt of a window shutter. Slowly, the puzzle pieces begin to align. You mutter to yourself, "It's all here." All of it, as the fog curls around street lamps like whispering ghosts. Even in the cold, there is a strange comfort in these moments of quiet revelation. You know the end of this case is near, and the streets will witness it along with you, shrouded in mist and mystery. Dawn is creeping over the rooftops of Shitamachi, and the fog that has wrapped the streets all night is beginning to lift. You walk slowly, savoring the silence that precedes the city's morning bustle. The last lead brought you here, and now the threads are clear. The suspect's pattern, the hidden rendezvous, the overlooked alley. Everything clicks into place with a quiet inevitability. Steam rises from a convenience store coffee machine, mingling with the crisp morning air. You pause, taking a deep breath, feeling the damp mist dry against your cheeks. The neon glow fades, leaving the pale yellow of street lamps, casting long, delicate shadows on the wet pavement. Somewhere nearby, a cat meows, hopping lightly over a garbage can lid, unaware of the human dramas unfolding in the fog. You feel a moment of satisfaction, not triumph. Tokyo is indifferent to your victory, but there's warmth in knowing that in this city a fog of fleeting shadows and whispered conversations, the mystery has been untangled. The fog lifts, revealing the familiar streets, the ramen stalls, the clatter of bicycles. Life goes on, quietly, absurdly, beautifully. And you, as always, continue walking these streets. A shadow among shadows, a detective in the soft, lingering haze. Now, relax, close your eyes, and drift peacefully to sleep.